Hey, everybody.
Hey.
It's good to see you. Well, we can't see you.
They can see
But,
us.
but they can see us. Or
Yes.
hear
maybe-
us.
yeah.
It's good you're listening.
Yeah. So we're off to a great start. So it's good.
Stick with us.
It's going to be a great time. But if you are watching us on YouTube right now, you might notice that we are in a new home.
We are.
Each studio has moved locations, which is great. But we also have a new virtual home too.
Yes.
Just for the podcast.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Just the podcast. And what do they search for?
Yes, it is CCCGREELEY podcast is what they're going to look up on wherever you find your podcast. That's where you're going to find us now.
Yeah. So I'm glad you guys are here. Glad you found us. And we're really happy with our new home. This is cool. Yep.
It is.
Okay. So my family has been walking through something this past week. My wife's 95-year-old grandma died last weekend. And there's just like, I don't know, when someone reaches that age, there's just like so many things to think about. Like she was born in, I guess it would be 1930.
Wow.
And is my math right on?
Yeah.
Math man, is that right?
So like she was like a kid during World War II.
That is insane.
And like she survived the Great Depression in like rural Kansas, like during the Dust Bowl, like just like, and like COVID was not the first epidemic quarantine situation that she had been through. Like during COVID, she was showing us pictures of, I forget what it was.
It was the Spanish flu, wasn't it?
It might, no, that was way earlier, I think, but it was, I think it was polio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was before the polio vaccine. And so like her family had polio and like the government literally like put like signs on the door of their house of just like, so just like the things that she lived through. But there's just like, my brain has been going so many places, but like the day she died, it was a Thursday and I had to come to work for some like college event. But I was just thinking on the way over, it's like someone's journey that started in 1930 just came to an end hours ago. And I'm just driving to work like it's just like another day. And the amount of times that happens every day, like this is just like another day. This is our life and our story, but like someone else's story, like that started in 1930 has like come to this conclusion. Like it was a wild drive to work. Like I'm not sure like what I took away from that other than just like this moment of reflection, but it really was just like this pause of this moment of like, I don't know, this realization of mortality and like the weight of a life. And when we're in the middle of a journey, we don't think about the beginning of that journey very often. And we try to avoid thinking about the end of that journey, but there is a finish line and I don't know. It just brings up a whole bunch of stuff.
It does. I'm reading that book that I've been talking about,
I
the
was thinking about
4,000 Weeks.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is where my brain has been. And it's really interesting when you do start thinking about this more and more, listening to somebody talk about this and really go in depth, how you change your decisions throughout the day. Now, will I be doing this a month from now when I'm done with the book? Who knows?
Sure.
But like the fact that I'm in it now, just these very small decisions that I'll make that I'm like, that's not important because this is important. It's very interesting.
Can you give like an example of like something that's like, this is not as important as I thought it was?
Yes,
and this is.
I'll do it with, so recently we've been helping some friends take care of their son and everything, so putting the kids to bed. So I'm a mother of 3 right now, which God bless all of you if you are, because that's God bless you, Nate. It's more work than you think
3
it's going to
sounds
be.
easy.
But it's one of those things like putting the kids to bed, and this is silly, but when I sing these songs for my daughter.
Sure.
And it's the same songs that I've sang to her since she was little, okay? But now that she's older, she's 10, but I still sing to her. We do them in different formats. So like I'll sing in a Disney princess version.
Nice.
Or the next song you sing it in opera.
Nice.
Or the next song I sing really high, she sings really low.
You're a good mom.
Well, but there are plenty of nights that I'm just gonna sing them, honey.
Yep.
I just let me blaze through these songs, and reading this and everything. It's like this moment for her in the day is so fun. It's like it's fun for her, and so it's when it like no, me going out and scrolling on my phone is not important and relaxing. This is important. Like get the opera voice out, and so.
Can you give us a sample?
It's really good, but maybe later. Even the little boy was all wow.
All right.
For once in a while, but
cool.
Yeah. So singing Edelweiss in opera before bed, like that's important.
Yeah.
And it just has shown me the things that I worry about during the day, either for work or for home, the things that I see as a big stressor because I think I need to get all this stuff done. Well, I'm not going to get it all done. You never will,
Yeah.
Well, and like, I wonder for her grandma, right? 95 years old.
Yep.
She probably had some really difficult, challenging seasons, obviously,
Yeah,
right? The Dust
big time.
Bowl, World
Yep.
War II and all that. But there were probably a lot of things that in the moment probably felt like a big deal to her. Like maybe a couple weeks of stress about, I don't know, fill in the blank, whatever. But if she looks back, like on her deathbed, and she goes,
Yeah.
not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Like that. I think sometimes when we don't keep our mortality in mind, these things that we walk through, we actually give them a lot more power than they're supposed to have in our life. These things that stress us out, that give us anxiety, these things that cause us fear. It's like, you know what? Like, it doesn't really matter. Like with my kids, like you're talking about, just like that frustration of, I got to get through this. I got to get on to the next. Like, I get it. Like, I think we all get that as parents. Like, yeah, being a parent is stressful. But at the same time, like, you are so right. Like, their childhood is this, like, precious, finite gift that we get to be a part of. And it's like, dude, who cares what the latest TikTok trend is? Like, it's going to fade away in 2 weeks anyways. Like, and I'm not even going to remember
it's probably
it.
unsafe, so just...
Yeah. But, like... having that perspective of like, no, this is the thing that really matters. Like all that other stuff. Because I think far too often we allow our work to matter too much. We allow our ambition to matter too much. And it's the relationships that really ultimately should matter most. Like those are the things that suffer. Like nobody lays on their deathbed going, oh man, I wish I worked more. I wish I had more money.
Right.
It's like, it's always, I wish I spent more time with the people I loved.
Yeah.
There was also something really notable about, like, she had lived a really long life, but in this very anticlimactic way, there was nothing significant about, like, the last day.
Yeah.
Like, it was February something, like 4th, 5th, I don't know. And that's the thing. It's like, there's no need to, like, memorize the date. Like, she was just really old, and her body was tired, and it was over. And I don't know. There was something that felt almost like, well, yeah, anticlimactic or a little unfair of like, surely after like a 95-year life, the end comes to this like conclusion. But it was just a week in February. Her body just decided, I'm tired. And we went to go like say goodbye while she was still in hospice. And like, she was just like this really small old lady in a bed with a blanket. And I don't know, like, I think I was thinking through it from like her perspective, and maybe this is not her perspective at all, but I don't know. Like, I'm 38. No, 36.
You're 36, dude.
Thank you. So,
Shave those off.
You're younger than me.
even younger. And like, I'm starting to feel like, okay, like it's been a while. Like I've been around for a while now. Like the time I've been here, it carries a bit of weight. Like it's starting to. She was like almost triple that And I don't know. If I was her, I would just be kind of astonished. It's like, so I guess this is it.
Yeah.
Like, and it just, for no reason and for no purpose, it just came out of nowhere. And it was just over.
Today's the day. Yeah.
And I don't have any like concrete
Yeah,
thoughts
no.
about that. It's just been like so wild to just comprehend.
I think it's interesting. I'm thinking of a conversation I've had with my sister before, and we both have very different perspectives on it. But when we've had like an aunt pass away, and she was like, my sister felt very strongly like, what was her legacy? Like, what did she leave? And she mourned the fact that her life didn't have this grandiose impact. And and so I'm just interested to hear from you guys, like, because for me, I'm just like, but it didn't have to have that.
Yeah.
But for some people, there's this like internal need to have that. And if I don't have that, and like, what does it look like for the person, that personality at the end of their life? Like, did I achieve this legacy that I want? And what is that legacy that is in us?
Yep.
Yeah, I've always thought it's a really weird thing to try to live for some kind of a legacy like that. Because even if you achieve it, like the reality is within 2 generations, people forget who you are. Like, unless you're George Washington, it's like nobody remembers. And so for me, like when I think through legacy, the only thing I truly, really care about is how am I impacting my kids? Because that's the only thing that's going to live on after me, right? If I shape my kids in a way to where they love Jesus and their 4 kingdom things, it's like, okay, cool. Then they're going to pass that on, and they're going to do that with their kids. But in terms of like being known and making this massive impact, it's like I don't see the point. Like I feel like when you live for that, you're only going to get to the end of your life being disappointed, because it's never enough, right? It's like, oh, cool, like you have a building named after you. And then 50 years from now, people are like, who's Stetson Beeman? And why is this plaque written on this pew?
Right.
And it just sounds so silly. And I think it's a straw man. Like, I don't think there's a way I can satisfy you. I think it's just going to always leave you empty. So why even try living for something like that? Whereas the people in front of you, like, man, like, and this goes back to the kid thing, right? Like, you want a legacy. It's like, oh, I'm going to spend extra hours at work. I'm going to work weekends. I'm going to rise up in the company and make all this. It's like, well, yeah, but like, my kids are going to grow up without a father. What kind of legacy is that?
Yeah.
Cool. My legacy is my kids go to therapy for the next 30 years. Like,
I remember there was a leadership conference we went to one time, and I don't even remember who said it, but he was like, I wrote when I worked so hard to rise to the top, and when I got to the top, there was nothing there. It's like, great, here I am.
Yeah. My wife and I's small group were going through the book of Ecclesiastes together. And what you just said pretty much sums up the first 2 chapters of just like, no one's going to remember you or what you've accomplished.
I hope you're really enjoying our content today.
Yeah. and it adds another layer on it. It's like everything you will accomplish, someone's already done it.
Yep.
And they've been forgotten. And you think you're the first because you forgot the last person who did it. And like one of the core values and purposes of life is to just enjoy what you have while you have it.
Yeah.
But I think you touched on like if there is any legacy, and we need to talk about what the reality of this is for people who don't have kids, because I think it's there too. But it's like for me in my mind, like I don't think I view legacy beyond my kids' impression of me after I'm gone.
Right.
I think after that, it's over. Like any value of anyone remembering me beyond that point, like if there's anything effective that has lasting value past me, it's going to be the impact I have on my children.
Right.
But after that, it's like, I don't know. So if you guys, so we're all parents here, but like, let's say in an alternate universe, you didn't have kids.
Right.
What would your heart, your value, your purpose kind of like, if there was any hope of legacy in the same way our hearts are pointed towards, it's like, if I do nothing, I'm going to impact this or them. What would that be?
Yeah, for me, I think it's still like a relational thing. So TikTok, for some reason, the algorithm.
You go big on TikTok?
No.
That's what.
It's decided to
I'd like to see that dance.
show me a lot of Boy Meets World clips, and a lot of these clips are of Mr. Feeney.
Okay.
Right now in that show, Mr. Feeney, like, as far as I know, he doesn't have kids, but the impact that he makes on Eric and on Corey and on Topanga and on like, it is phenomenal. Like, that's actually what shapes these kids' lives, really, and who they become. And you can follow that in Girl Meets World. You can tell I have kids, right? We watch this stuff. But
Same.
like, I truly believe that just because, you know, if we're in a position where we don't have kids, it doesn't mean that we can't influence the next generation. It doesn't mean that we can't invest in the people who are around us just by showing up and being present in people's lives and actually caring about them. I think that legacy is something all of us, kids or no kids, we can step into and be a part of. But it's all tied to relationship, right? It's not about, oh, look at my money or look at what I built or what I accomplished, right? The only thing I think that truly impacts people is the relational connection you have with them.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be the next generation.
No,
it
could
could be the
any
generation before
generation.
you.
Or it could be the generation after
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, like that makes me think of like the hospice care workers who were taking care of like
Yeah.
Allie's grandma, and just the sense of like they encounter like the people they're making the biggest impact on. They encounter them when they're just like days away from being done.
Yeah.
And I think that has so much value.
Yep.
Like just, I don't know, like holding up, it's like making an impact on someone as they're beginning their life compared to making an impact on someone who's at the end of their life. They feel the same weight to me. And so, and I think that's important to recognize because like if someone doesn't have kids and don't feel bad if this is the case, doesn't really have a heart for kids.
Right. No, there are plenty
like
of people.
it's not just limited.
You should choose that if you don't.
But I think about really at our church, we have that ministry over at Broadview. And we have people at our church who are showing up there. And I actually got to be a part of that. Like, there was a guy, Mike. We called him Big Mike. Really cool dude. Got to baptize him over there. Like, it was amazing. I got to know Mike for like 2 or 3 months, and then he passed away. But that impact, like, and he told me about it, his kids told me about it, the people at Broadview are like, this made a difference for him. And it changed his outlook as he approached death. It changed his hope about, as you know, when he was thinking about what came after death. And we've got so many people at our church who are showing up and being a part of that. Like, so you're right, it's not just kids, but it's people who are in need, right? Because I think we're all in this place, like, where we're longing for something real. Right, we're longing for some kind of a connection, and we're just asking this question: do you see me? Right, and you talked about that like with your kids a couple podcasts ago, where your kids are looking at you going, "Do you see me?" But like, that's just not like a child thing. Like, that is a human thing. We all want to be seen, and we all want to know that somebody cares about us. And when we do, that makes an impact.
Okay, so where does our relationship with God come into all of this ultimately? Like, because, you know, like we're sitting there going, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If nothing matters,
Right.
you know, then what is this, you know?
Well, Ecclesiastes actually kind of addresses this.
We just got to chapter 2.
Not there yet.
Don't want to spoil it.
Spoiler
Teach us,
alert.
Nate.
But like that's one of the things that Solomon calls us to, though. It's like, look, like none of this stuff matters, but here's something that does, right? Love where you're at, but like worship God. Now, obviously, I'm paraphrasing in a very, very general way, but like that's one of the things that Solomon points to and goes like, this thing does matter here.
Why?
I don't know, ask Solomon.
We can't, he died.
I forgot.
Yeah, Jenny, why?
No, I think, like, again, if we're talking, you know, legacy, like, have I poured into my kids a true core value of my belief of what I think is true, you know, in my relationship? Is that something that they have observed? Is that something that they see when I get stressed? Do I dwell in my stress? Do I spiral in my stress? Or do I remove myself and go to something that, you know, this relationship that can heal that and bring peace into the chaos, you know, that kind of a thing. Like,
Yeah, I think, this whole question about meaning, value, like what's our legacy and all that kind of stuff. I think a part of why some of that can feel so empty sometimes is because it's not what we're actually designed to need. I think.
Wait, say that again.
We pursue these things and we feel empty because we weren't actually designed to need it.
Oh, okay.
Like you're talking about legacy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And even just like fulfillment and all that kind of stuff, right? Because all this other stuff, it often ends up leaving us feeling empty. And I think God created us that way. There's that old cliche like, oh, God made you with a little God-shaped, whatever in your heart. And I don't want to make it cliche like that, but like I think there's something at least to that idea of like we find home in him. We find peace in him. We find wholeness and healing and satisfaction in him. I would love to go talk to your grandma now.
Me too.
Or Allie's grandma and go,
Yeah.
okay, like
You can't.
but
That's
just
how this whole thing began.
play it out. You go to her in heaven, right? She's with Jesus and go, okay, like how do you feel now? It's like, oh, I'm home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, there's something to that. And like my grandpa, he's 97 and he's still alive. And every time I talk to him, like that's what he tells me. He says, I'm ready to go home.
It's good.
I'm pretty sure it's in John, and I forget if it's John writing this or if he's quoting Jesus saying this, but he defines eternal life as, like he says, and this is eternal life, to know God. And that's kind of wild. Like that's not a definition, that's not a common definition of eternal life. And so just like tying it into what you're saying about like Ecclesiastes, it's like, well, like enjoy what we have and worship God.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, if there's anything beyond us, if there's any life beyond this life, which there is, it's rooted in knowing God somehow. Like he's shining on, he's pointing at eternal life from a different angle beyond just the reality of eternal life, but like knowing God as a core component of it.
Yeah.
That kind of breaks my brain a little bit.
Right.
And like it seems to paint this message of like if we spend a life just getting to know him better, we are heading in a trajectory towards life instead of a trajectory towards death. In the sense of like we are already beginning to immerse ourselves in the thing that we will be fully immersed in when we die.
Yeah.
Compared to legacy. And I love what you said. Like I never thought of it in that way before of like, this is not something that we actually need. And it's like, oh my gosh, like you're absolutely right. Like in the sense of like, I don't know, there's like a dozen things like in the middle of the day, like you think you want Chipotle and then you go there and you stand in line and you get it and you're just like, why did I get this? Like I didn't want this, but you convinced yourself of
Yes.
it. And I think legacy is the same thing of like, I need to have this.
Yes.
And you pursue it and you go after it. And just like you said, like I got to the top and there's nothing there. It's like, oh, I don't need this.
Yeah. And I think too, I love when you talked about the finite, I think when you finally come to the realization and accept that, it is much easier to be content.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like personally for me, I go through seasons of being content and I can feel it. I feel like I'm in one right now. But then, Amazon Prime Day is around the corner and then you're like, nope, not content anymore.
This is what I need.
Yes. And then all of a sudden you're like, the same thing comes to the door, you open it up and you're like, didn't do it.
And I think this is the problem ultimately with being human. Even though cognitively, like in our heads, we know we're going to die, I think most of us live like that's not actually true.
Yes.
And because we don't truly believe in our hearts that, no, like there is a day coming where we're going to pass away and our loved ones are going to mourn for us. That's why we get trapped and pulled into all these stupid things that honestly just don't matter. Because we forget, like, no, I'm going to die. All of this, it doesn't matter. All that money I make, it's going to go to somebody else. It's like, okay. But when we can remember, right, when you're sitting there talking with your wife, thinking about her grandma, it's like, oh, okay, like if we remember that's going to shape the way we approach our day. That's going to shape the way we engage our kids and the way we parent and the way we spend our money and the way we spend our time and the things that we say yes to and the things that we say no to. It becomes this beautiful filter that essentially helps us get rid of all the stuff that doesn't matter so that we can just say yes to the things that do. And I don't know, I want more of that in my life.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay. Like, let's try this.
I don't know. I'm not gonna say yes.
It may not really matter.
Instead of just like thinking in hypotheticals
Yeah.
or what ifs.
Okay.
How, like I'm asking each of you, I'll answer myself too. How, and I'm not even going to use like what if language, like if you did, but it's like I'm assigning this.
Okay.
in-
Professor Beeman.
Which has zero power over you. Like you can do whatever you want.
No.
Okay. Because we're going to go about our day trying to be aware of our finite mortality, how is your day going to be different today?
Today.
Don't worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just today. What will you do
Because
differently?
really, if you're in that belief, tomorrow might not be here.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not anything different. It's
Yeah.
just like really honing in on something you were already planning on doing. Just what would be different or impacted? No, not what. What will?
What
Yeah.
will?
What will?
Yeah, for me, like there's a tendency I have when things don't go the way that I want, like whether it's in a meeting or something else, like I can get a little worked up and frustrated, where I'm like, remembering I'm finite and gonna die can allow me just to let it go and go, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. That's a good one.
So that's my goal.
That's a really good
in
one.
everything that comes after
Yep.
this, just to go.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not my preference, but whatever. I'm
Yeah.
gonna die one day.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard because I'm so sorry I've not talked this whole time.
That's
Hi-
okay.
That's
hi,
okay.
Hi,
everybody.
KJ. Welcome
Yeah,
to the show.
Welcome to the podcast.
I was just like, I got this picture of I would just pack up my backpack and I would go home. And that's like the picture I got. It was like, so if I was gonna die tomorrow, what am I doing?
Sure.
And all the things that you spend time on, or even talking about it, or podcasts, or I feel like the whole job I have is talking, and how a bunch of times it's just empty.
Yeah.
And just the ability to sit here and be quiet is such a gift. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the angle you're taking at it from. It's like, what if I died tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like that changes things for sure.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah. Of course.
This would be the last recording of your voice,
Yes.
which could be.
Yeah. But
Praise the Lord.
but
Finally.
but I think there's also something to just like, even if it's like 50 years from now, it still makes an impact.
Like, I hope I have 50. There's no way.
40, 30, 20.
It's the when you're at an age and you double your age
Yeah.
and you will no longer be. That's when you know
Right.
you're old.
Right. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
how I
You absolutely know. There's no way.
There's no way
Yeah.
I'm on the downhill.
Yeah, that's wild. I think for me, like tonight, I don't think this is a healthy practice every day. Like self-care is really important. But at least for today, I think regardless of how I'm impacted by the day, I'm going to be really intentional playing with my kids tonight and putting them to bed.
Sing opera.
Sing opera.
Sing opera.
I'm going to attempt to pull a Jenny. Edelweiss in an operatic form.
Yes. It's beautiful.
Why are you doing this? Because I'm going to die someday. What?
Vibrato is on point. Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think for me, this is kind of weird because I was going the kid route for sure, but I think too because I've been reading this book and kind of in this world and stuff, you know, I've been trying to be intentional with that. Maybe more so with my kids than my spouse, honestly. But in one of the chapters that I read, he talked about when you say yes to something, you're saying no to hundreds of things.
That's true. Yes.
Okay. And so I want to be thinking about when I say yes to something, what are the things that I'm saying no to, and evaluate, should this be the thing I should be saying yes to? And being intentional in the decisions of
That's really good.
that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Well, and maybe that's a question we can propose to everyone who's listening
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
You want to try to
Yeah.
synthesize that question in a way that is applicable?
Yeah, we were kind of like all over the place, and I would just encourage you, like, if one thing stuck out, just hold on to that.
Yeah.
Don't try to like encapsulate the whole thing together. But if like there's anything that will cause more value of your day or your life, like grab a hold of that and like get all the value out of that you can. But I would encourage one more additional thing. I don't have any regrets from like my interactions or my time with Allie's grandma. Like she was around for a long time. Like we got to do a lot of things. Like it was really, really cool. Except for one, by the time we went to say goodbye, like she was too tired to hold up a conversation. But the clarity I would imagine being even just years close to the end of this journey, the clarity that would bring and the things that you would be thinking about at the end of your life. I wish I had gotten the opportunity to have some really great conversations with her. Like the most she was up for was for me to just tell her, I love you. And that was it. And it was sweet and it was wonderful. But the things that I really wanted to ask her is like, how do you feel about the fact that you're going to be seeing Jesus maybe within the week?
That's crazy.
And asking favors of her of like, if it works this way, could you tell my mom I said hi?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And
I'm going to throw this out there.
yeah, just like really real things.
Yeah.
Like I know I've mentioned this book, and I think I've mentioned this before. Like, it's the How to Get to Know a Person book. But like the one thing that's really stuck out for me in that is like he mentioned that I think people have this belief that they're going to offend people by asking these really real questions.
Yeah.
But the reality is people are longing to be seen and be asked real questions. And he did this survey of like journalists and interviewers and like people who are asking people questions all the time. And he said, how many times have people been angry with you for asking a really pointed question? And all of them said pretty much never. And so all that to say, if there's anyone in your life that is approaching the end of this journey, you have an opportunity to learn some really incredible things. That's the one thing, if I could go back a month, that's the one thing I would do.
Because the things you'll learn are the things that aren't shaped by the things that we're dealing with. They're the ones on the end going like, oh, all that crap that I thought mattered
Right.
Right.
didn't matter.
Yes.
This, though, this did.
Yeah.
And it carries authority because they've lived it.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
I love that this became kind of a topic. I love our topic ones. We don't do them often, but if you guys have a topic that you want us to discuss,
yeah, that
I
would be
would
so
love to
cool.
hear it.
That would actually be really
we
fun.
see you guys, you come up and say hi, you encourage us, and we'd love to hear what you.
how do they let us
If
know
you go over
that?
to the YouTube, you can just in the comment drop a comment and say I'd love for you guys to discuss.
Or they could email
That's
us.
great. Yeah.
Whatever works.
Yeah, or if you're a part of Christ Community Church and you attend in person, if you
come
see
tell
any
us.
of us, like please, like we would be
Yeah.
super excited to like talk to you in person and get ideas from you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us. We love you, and we
Yep.
hope you have a really great day.